So, you know, there's a few mistakes that I made when I first started running. Some, you know, glad I made them, I learned from it, and some I kind of wish I didn't. But I want to talk about both in today's video, and in the mistakes that beginner runners make. And I want to put these mistakes in different categories. The first categories just can be from the training and the running part, like running too fast, the different surfaces, how do you know when to like take days off, stuff like that. The other one is going to be a mistake of self-care, how I'm taking care of my body or not, and do injuries come out of nowhere, those types of things. And then finally, I want to talk about mistakes around nutrition and gear, running in the wrong shoes, tying your shoes certain ways, always running on the same surface, that type of stuff. So anyway, Coach A here. Let's get in with some of those first mistakes around training. I think one of the biggest things that I used to do when I first started training and running, I was younger, probably in late elementary school, junior high, and I was training for soccer. And I would do these runs that were only, it was only a 12 or 15 minute loop, but I was absolutely gutted afterwards, exhausted. And when I joined the cross country team for the first time, we were supposed to do this long run that was 50 or 55 minutes long. And I thought about this 12 or 15 minute run I did, and I just, like, all the color left my skin. I was like, there's no way that I'm gonna be able to survive this run. I can barely run 12 minutes. How am I gonna run for 50 or 55? And I know a lot of new beginner runners feel a similar way when they see those longer runs in their schedule. And when we started that run together, the cross country team, it turned out that we didn't have to run so damn fast. We ran real slow, real gentle. I could breathe, I could talk, I could have a conversation the entire time. And I was absolutely blown away because I didn't know. But when I started my runs, I was kind of drilling it, almost like from the beginning. And when I started to drill it from the beginning, I was just already in the pain cave. I was already suffering. Running wasn't fun and enjoyable. My body felt beat up, and it just didn't feel that sustainable. So don't do what I did and kill yourself for, 15 minutes. Let yourself go slow and easy and ease into things. So a nice thing to do instead is to start your runs breathing in and out through your nose, or in through your nose and out through your mouth. What you're gonna find is if you're running too fast, you can't do it. So that really forces you to slow down and enjoy the runs, especially in the beginning, as they're meant to. Now, speaking of cross-country teams, the other thing I learned when I started to run with a team and to get a little bit more organized was actually to run with a program. I'd never done that before. Every time I ran, it was always the same or similar distance, had that same terrible intensity that I just told you about. And so the idea that I have some runs that were easy, I had some runs where I did intervals or hills, like I'm running up a hill right now, and that variety gave me my body what it needed. I started to work on speed, different surfaces taught me different things about my running form, and when I stitched it all together, I was just having more fun with running. So it's a good idea to run on different terrain, do different types of workouts, and really enjoy yourself there. Now, the flip side of that mistake, when I used to run too, back in the streets of Boston, there's a lot of rain and snow there, so the roads had these really bad crowns. So I was used to run on the same side of the road for every single workout. And every time I did that, I was just running on this road that was like curved like this. So I was always running on the edge of the curve, and my right leg was always getting injured because my right edge was always running at a slant. So mix up the surfaces. Even if you're not on a training plan, run on dirt. Don't run on concrete all the time if you can. Run on different parts of the road if you're able to and it's safe. Those things are really, really key. One more word on those training plans. When I first got into them, I kind of went the other direction. Where I was like, oh my God, my coach wrote this. I downloaded this thing on the internet. And when I started training for races, I was that A+ runner student that I had to hit every single workout. And if I didn't hit a single workout, it meant that I wouldn't make my race, I wouldn't make my goal. I remember training for my first marathon, and I was really nervous that if I just missed one workout, I would really damage myself and damage my chances. And so when my body was inevitably telling me that I wanted to do something different than was on the plan, maybe I didn't sleep well, I had an all-night study thing, maybe my knee or my calf was hurting and needed not to do intervals that day or needed an extra rest day, I just kind of forced myself into the program and ended up creating more problems than I really helped solve. So a key thing is, remember, the training plan is not the word of God, okay? It's really just a guide. In my best coach-athlete relationships, it's not the coach telling the athlete what to do. It's a conversation. As a coach, it's my job to help you interpret what your body's saying and to make better decisions around that. But I don't know every little scrap of history you've gone through, what's going on with your body, and really how to fix those things. So that's really where it's coming together on both sides. Now, when it comes to self-care, I first want to talk about run form mechanics, because if I don't pay attention to how I run, it's kind of purposely avoiding self-care. It's actually not taking care of my body that I want. The biggest thing that I did, runners did, is just run with cadence that's too low and too heavy. And in conjunction with that, whenever we go out on runs, rather than tuning into what our body's doing, we tune out. We put headphones in, we listen to our pump up music, and hey, I'm not hating, I like that music too, but I gotta spend some time listening to my breathing, paying attention inwardly, because when I start to do that, then I can start to make adjustments and changes. I might realize, hey, I actually started pretty good in the beginning of the run, but when I got towards the end, I got really heavy and tired and exhausted. And the reason why this is important is because if I'm not even aware, then how am I gonna make changes? But if I can start to cultivate that awareness just by notice and observation, all of a sudden I can pick up all this incredible information that's gonna make me a better runner later on, because I can immediately make adjustments and changes, and all those articles you read and videos you watch on our channel starts to make a little bit more sense. So another thing I did when I started running is I just went out. I would wake up and I would just hit the road, and I never really warmed up. I never got my body prepped. I didn't actually do any other type of movement, treating myself as an athlete that would then segue into becoming a better runner. I'd just be sitting in a chair and then I'd go and run. And when I was younger, I could kind of get away with it. Not that I'm old now, but as I get a little older, body starts to stiffen up. I really respond to better warm-ups. So I'll balance on one leg, finding a little bit of stability here, and I'll start to swing this right leg back and forth. And I'm already starting to develop a little bit of activation in this foot and this ankle. This hip is starting to get, really engaged. And I'm really starting to improve this hip extension out the back, because we sit so much, our hips get real tight that we're missing this range behind us. So all of a sudden, just by doing a few things like this, doing a few squats, opening up our legs another way, even just kind of doing some arm swings. I always do a little routine. It takes 2 minutes. Sometimes I stop and do it on the trail like I'm doing it right now, or I just keep going. It makes such a big difference with your running. I can't even tell you. The other part of that is, hey, can I double down and focus on 2 days a week of actual strengthening my body, stabilizing my joints, exploring ranges of motion that I don't normally do? Because look, when I run, this is how much my leg bends. It goes from here to here, here to here. It doesn't go that much. If I strength train, all of a sudden I load my body up and I start to go through different greater ranges of motion. All of a sudden, I build a little bit of a buffer for myself. I give my glutes, my hamstrings, my quads just a little bit more room to maneuver with. They're a little stronger, they've got greater range, because all of a sudden, if I'm just limited by that really tiny bit of range, I'm not really doing myself any bit of favors. I become very fragile as a runner, not very good at dealing with problems, and all of a sudden I'm more likely to get injured. Now, maybe you haven't heard about foam rollers or lacrosse balls or any type of self-massage, but even if you had, most runners don't act on that information because they don't feel like they need to. They don't feel like it applies to them. So one of the biggest mistakes that I made, and I see a lot of beginner runners make, is waiting until it's too late. You wait for that injury to start to kind of bother you just a little bit in your run, but you keep going, kind of because you're like, well, I gotta stick to my plan, I gotta stick to my routine. If I get off my routine, I'm gonna lose fitness. And I'm gonna put my headphones in. You can see all these mistakes compound, right? And just not really listen or pay attention to anything. And then it just gets worse and worse and worse. So all of a sudden it takes 20 minutes for it to warm up, and then you're like, oh man, I can only run flats, I can't run on hills because that bothers me. And then it gets to the point where like, man, I'm even like limping around the house. What do? I'm just gonna put ice on it and rest. All of these things is avoiding the very easy thing you could have done from day one, which was full body scans. Making sure each week you are kind of rolling and massaging out every major muscle group in your lower legs. Just for starters, your feet, your calves, your shins, your hamstrings, your quads, that IT band, your glutes, all of those areas are big. And if you can do that on a regular basis, man, that makes you dangerous. That makes your training so much smoother. You recover quicker, your stride is more open and more powerful. You just feel more supple on the ground. You don't feel heavy and stiff, and you're way less likely to get injured because you're catching those injuries before they occur. You can use that information to make very quick adjustments, so you're only adjusting the nature of your workout or taking a day off at the very least, versus having to take 3 weeks or a month off and then lose the motivation to even keep going. So let's talk gear for a second. There's a lot of, gear things you can wear, like this sweet, sweat wicking hat that keeps sun off my face, sweat out of my eyes, keeps me cool. Shirt that's non-cotton, running shorts that kind of feel loose and fluid. But you know what, like, you'll figure that out. I'm not too worried about those being mistakes per se. That's more a preference. And with experience, you figure out the stuff you like to wear. I would say though, that some of the mistakes I've seen when it comes to gear is using your gear incorrectly, or being in a certain gear for too long. So one example of incorrect gear use is tying your running shoes too tight. I remember when I played soccer, I wanted to tighten my cleats up as much as I could. I didn't want to move around. With running, you're just going forward. Trails, you're going a little bit lateral side to side as I am right now, but they don't need to be that tight. In fact, it's actually better to give your feet, your forearms a little bit of room to breathe, because every time you land, your feet want to expand a little bit. And it's actually not the cushion of the shoe that does that much. It's not this, it's actually the damn foot itself. Every time my foot hits the ground, I want that foot to expand, that arch to just have some room to expand a little bit, and then it pulls back up, expands, pulls back up. But if my feet are too rigid or my shoes are too rigid, I don't have that natural ability to happen, and I hurt myself. So number one, don't tie your shoes too tight. As you run more and more, your feet tend to collect a little blood and swell. And the other thing is, don't be in a shoe that's too cushy and too rigid or supportive for too long. Maybe that's the shoe that's most comfortable for you to start. No hating there. Spend some time in minimalist shoes. Do workouts barefoot. Mix it up. That huge component of running in different shoes is going to give you different proprioceptive feedback for your feet. It's going to strengthen your feet and ankles. It's going to improve your run form, because when we're in these cushy supportive shoes, they're really designed well to blunt the impact. But when we're blunted for so long, we get lazy, and that doesn't really do us any favors. So we've talked a lot about what we shouldn't do. What should we do to make our running a little bit better? Well, there's two things. One, you should download the Run Experience app, because we have workouts and programs like the Beginner Runner program in there that walks you through all the things I talked about in one place. You have workouts that include warm-ups, that include strength training, that include run form, that give you guidance on shoes and gear and on pacing and on breathing, all the important things that makes running better. And I tell you what, working with new runners is so much fun, because you don't have to unlearn stuff. You're just like ready to go from the beginning. And if you start off with those right habits, man, you guys just take off. So download the Run Experience app down below and become a premium member. We got such great stuff there, and we would love to work with you and help you on your running journey. The second thing you can do is to watch this other video playing over one of my shoulders. This one right here. And Holly talks about how to make running easier in 5 minutes. So if you're someone who's been struggling and you just want that quick win with running, well, this is a great video. She walks you through some really great tips. Guys, I'm gonna keep running. Enjoy this trail. It's Global Running Days. I filmed this, I'm pumped. I'll see you guys later.